The holidays are right around the corner, which means it's turkey season. There's bound to be leftovers. We're gonna take those leftovers and we're gonna make 3 completely different dishes out of them. First off, we're gonna make a miso gravy turkey with umami cucumbers. Then we're gonna make a sandwich with sauerkraut and a sticky sweet chili turkey. And lastly, but not leastly, a Kha Gai, which is a Thai soup that's so good it's gonna make you dance. Needless to say, all of these things can be prepared with chicken as well. So if you have some chicken lying around, these are 3 delicious ways to get rid of it. Let's roll! We'll make the umami cucumbers first for the miso gravy turkey. And for that, we're gonna need 2 cukes that we're gonna present in a very dramatic fashion. We're gonna slice those lengthwise and scoop out all the seeds until we're left with nothing but the cucumber flesh. We won't use the end bits, so get rid of those. By the way, we don't need to peel those, just make sure that they're washed well, right? Then we're gonna slice the halves into quarters and cut those into big chunks. Then it's cucumber smashing time. You wanna give the pieces a good whack so that they bruise, but they keep their overall integrity. All those nooks and crannies are gonna absorb the umami dressing that we're gonna make for them. And speaking of dressing, we're gonna make that into a container with a tight fitting lid. We'll use about 50 milliliters of soy sauce, a tablespoon of rice vinegar, a big pinch of MSG, a big pinch of chili flakes, and about a tablespoon of something sweet. I'm using a sugar syrup, but you do you. And of course, a few dashes of sesame oil. The lid goes back on tight. Then it's time to shake the out of it. I don't know about you, but to me that feels a lot more enjoyable than whisking. And that's our dressing done. Then the cukes go back in. The lid goes back on, and it's time for another shake, but this time not as violent. In fact, it's more of a mix than a shake. And there you have it, in 5 minutes our umami cucumbers are done. And they're so good. Such a fresh, tasty snack. Now, those are out of the way, onto the miso gravy. We're gonna heat up about a cup of our leftover turkey gravy, and as soon as that bubbles up, we're gonna add about a tablespoon of white miso. I thought this might be getting a little salty at this point, so I added the juice of 1 lemon, a teaspoon of brown sugar. At this point I'm just riffing. And I thought, hell, why not? It's a gravy, so a few cranks of black pepper as well. Try mixing that with a spoon, realize that it's not the right tool, and spend an unnecessarily long amount of time, just out of stubbornness. And it's ready to accept our leftover turkey. For this one, I'm gonna use some of the breast meat, and I'm gonna cube that up into about 1-inch pieces. Throw the turkey back into the hot gravy and let it just warm through. And that's it, another 5 minutes and our miso gravy turkey is done. We'll serve that up on some nice steamed rice. That is incredibly fluffy and easy to make, and you don't need any extra equipment. If you need a reminder on how to make that, just click on that link in the top right corner. On one side, we're gonna pile up some of our crunchy, salty, sweet, sour, spicy cucumbers. And on the other side, we're gonna spoon in some of our turkey. That miso took the gravy and just elevated it into something completely different. A little acid comes through from the lemon, the brown sugar balances out the saltiness a little bit, but you still get a lot of that miso funk. So many flavors and textures in this, and honestly, even if you don't have any leftover rice, you can steam some while you're making the rest, and you can have everything done in 15 minutes. All in all, check it out, it's a great little bowl of food. Next, we're gonna make an incredible sandwich that takes even less time. Into a little pan, we're gonna heat up just a tiny bit of neutral oil, into which we're gonna throw in some of our dark meat, give it a good stir and make sure everybody meets the hot pan. Oh, that's a bone. Drizzle over a couple of tablespoons of sweet chili sauce, make sure all the pieces are coated, and let the chili sauce do its thing. There's sugar in the sauce, so what we're looking for is for that meat to get some caramelization. While that's happening, we can prepare our spicy mayo. In a little bowl, add a couple of tablespoons of mayonnaise, homemade of course, because flakes. To which we're gonna add a little teaspoon of gochujang. It's a Korean fermented spicy paste. It's a little sweet, a little salty, it's a bit like a hot miso. I'm also gonna peel a leaf of sauerkraut. And you know where I stand when it comes to salad and sandwiches. This is, after all, our fermented salad, and it's gotta be shredded. Then I thought, some onion might be nice in this. I have it, I'll use it. It's a leftovers recipe, right? The water's gonna keep the onion fresh and it's gonna wash out some of that sharpness. Then I remembered that I had this wilting bundle of parsley, so I picked whatever I could off of it, gave it a rough chop, and in it goes. I dressed the whole thing with a couple of spoons of the sauerkraut juice and a couple of dashes of the sesame oil. And look at that, we took the sauerkraut up a few notches. Now it's time to put this thing together, and we're gonna do it on a nice sandwich roll that we're gonna slice open and give it a little toast on the pan. The hot mayo goes on the buns first, both sides, and be generous. Nothing worse than a dry sandwich. Then we're going in with our salty, briny, crunchy salad. And on top of that, we're gonna lay down our turkey, which by now has become sticky and caramelized. The top goes on, and I think this one deserves a cross section. You know what? I'm gonna be completely honest with you. This whole sandwich was a freestyle and it came out way better than I thought it would. You got the heat in the mayo, the sweetness in the caramelized turkey, and that salty brininess in the sauerkraut. That sandwich was amazing. Finally, we're gonna make the most comforting and flavorful Thai soup, Tom Kha Gai, but with our leftover turkey instead of chicken. It starts with a pint of turkey or chicken stock, homemade of course, because I poured that into a little pot, but I realized that you guys wouldn't be able to see anything, so I poured it into a shallower pan. I know, I'm the best. While that's heating up, we can prep our aromatics. We're gonna slice up some Galanga root. If you don't have that, you can use ginger, but it's really not the same. We're also gonna slice a couple of stems of lemongrass, and don't worry, all of that stuff is gonna get strained out. 3 or 4 kaffir lime leaves. Again, if you can't get that, you can use some lime peel instead. 1 large or 2 small shallots that we're gonna cut up into large chunks. And a few Thai chilies. I use 3 for a medium heat and I give them a rough chop again. Now let that broth infuse for 10 to 15 minutes. Then take it off the stove and strain out the aromatics. Then the broth goes back in the pan, to which I'm gonna add something that's not traditional. A handful of dried shiitake mushrooms for some extra funk. Those go into the broth with something a little bit more traditional, some oyster mushrooms. All we need to do is break those apart, and I like to also tear the individual mushrooms in half. Now that we have the mushrooms in the broth, let them steep for a few minutes before adding a whole can of coconut milk. We're also going to sweeten up the broth with some palm sugar. If you can't find palm sugar, then use some brown sugar instead. Now it's time to add acidity and salt to the broth, but before we do that, I realized that my pan was getting a little bit overfilled, so I moved back to the pot. In go 45 ml of fresh lime juice and 45 ml of fish sauce. The last thing we need to add is the chicken, or in this case the leftover turkey, which we're gonna dice up and stir into the soup until heated through. Now this is where you can taste and adjust for seasoning, and I thought mine needed a little bit more fish sauce. Ladle in that hot aromatic broth and follow up with a lot of everything else. Then drizzle some chili oil, homemade of course, because... okay, I'm gonna stop, but there's a link there. And what I swear is coriander and not parsley. I'm just kidding, it is coriander and I actually really liked it in this. Okay, in terms of taste, I can't even begin to explain to you how many flavors there are. But if you're gonna take anything from this video is go make this soup. Trust me, it is amazing and you need to try it. It's so good, it's gonna make you wanna dance or whatever this is, roll. I'll catch you in the next one. Roll out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a ton of fun making the video and everything was really tasty. So I hope you go give it a try. See you in the next one, and in the meantime check out some of these videos.